Today we will be speaking about pandemic and elderly care in a way, because the whole world is passing through this difficult scenario. So, what really pandemic is, and then was such thing existing in ancient times, or if at all it was existing, especially in a Vedic way, what they were thinking about that, how to control that, and what are the basic things required, because now, well, the pandemic seems to be reduced, but it really shaken up and waken all of us that this might not be the only one. There might be some more uh, things happen in future, so we should be ready, we should be prepared, and we should be taking care of ourselves. So that is the theme of this whole lecture today. So if you see, there is an old text in Ayurveda called Charaka Samhita, which has uh, spent a whole chapter on pandemic. So they were aware of these kind of things in a way. It was happening in ancient times, and in fact, it was happening more because that time probably mm, most advanced things were not existing. So the huge population, not just in one town, one state, one country, but multiple countries were exposed to. So that is a chapter described by Charaka. It is called Janapada Dhvamsa. So that I will explain you what it means. Just to begin, I just explain you that there are such kind of possibilities explained, and how to handle that possibilities are also explained. So now let's go to the pandemic. What is pandemic in fact? So if you see the definition of pandemic, there are two important things which we need to understand as per the definition of WHO. Pandemic is an epidemic. Epidemic means masses are affected by same thing with same kind of symptoms or same kind of sufferings. So pandemic is an epidemic occurring on a scale that crosses the international boundaries. It will be not one country, it will be multiple countries. Somebody should mute the mic. It usually affect the people on a large scale. But what is the difference between an epidemic and pandemic is in pandemic, there should be some infection or infectious scenario should be there. So there should be something which is invading your body from outside. So that is the basic difference between a pandemic and an epidemic. So what is important in this? Important two things: something which invade your body or infect your body or enter in your body in a way or other. And secondly, it will be not for one or two people, it will be for masses or for population. This is a pandemic. So in pandemic, WHO has made different phases. I just give you the chart of WHO. So in the first three phases, there is not certainty that there is a pandemic, because, and that's what happened in the first wave of COVID. In fact, we were in an uncertain phase. How it happened, where it happened, is it pandemic, is it not? All these things were in the beginning. If you remember, beginning of 2020, everybody was confused, uncertain. Because what happened, there is no exact understanding is there. It can be animal to animal infection, it can be animal to human infection, or it can be opposite way. And then it can be a cluster, a group of people, or a huge population affected. So family and family and family. So what is happening, it's not really calculated in the first few pages. First few pages are to understand whether it's a pandemic or whether it's an epidemic. So when it is animal to human, it is considered as a human threat. And when it is sporadic or clustered, then it could go to community level outbreaks. Because one family affected, one society affected, one building affected, then it goes to second, then it goes to third. So community level, it could be. So that is happens in first three pages, what WHO thinks. And then afterwards, it's a progressive thing, like medium to higher probability, means it sustain on community level and it start to spread different state. It start to spread even crossing the borders. It goes to another country, means it's the high to certain probability. That is fifth phase. And then many countries, which is pandemic in progress. So we just experienced that. That's why I'm just explaining you. So when we see these 6 phases, why I'm telling you this? I'm telling you this because if at all in future something like this, if we come across up to third phase, we have a strong possibility to stop that. If we were not allowing that to spread in our community, then the community spread will be prevented. The state or whole country spread will be prevented, and international spread will be people. So that's why we need to understand this. When it initiates, you trace, you prevent, you stop. If you miss that, then it will become a pandemic. So this is one thing. And then once it spread everywhere, like the word you may heard, that is herd immunity, or the like 70, 80, 90% of the population is affected, so it's a herd immunity. It's the immunity developed. When it happens only when the pandemic reached the peak. Then it's only down level. It will not go up again. So then it start to drop. When it start to drop, the second phase is important. When it start to drop, everybody should take care of post effect, which most of the countries, unfortunately, in COVID first and second wave missed it out. So as we missed it out, many people who were infected by COVID first time, they again got COVID infection, they again got COVID infection. So because the platform was ready. So when the peak start to go down, the second phase of prevention comes in, is to, in a way, reconstruct or rebuild or damage control of post effect of that pandemic. So that now world realizes that post-COVID is much bigger than COVID in fact. So this is a second prevention level we should implement, which I will explain how to do that. And then after again, if it start to rise again, then it's again new wave, etc. So basically what is important is, first thing we have to keep in mind that we have to protect ourselves from invasion, our body from invasion. Second important thing is, if at all it happen, we have to take care the post effect of the epidemic or pandemic, so that we will not again exposed to that. I'm telling you this because I have been myself exposed to more than 10,000 active COVID patients, which were moderate to severe symptoms. And I'm thankful to, in a way, Ayurveda yoga, that I protected myself even though I exposed to at large. So that is possible if we, and it's not something big you have to do. There are very simple things which if you follow, you will protect yourself. So let's go further. In this, there are two things which are considered or which we hear this word. One is SARS and second is ARDS. So what it is actually? Why we hear this word and what is the difference between them? So I'm just explaining you so that you will get an idea of what pandemic is and how it happens. So SARS and ARDS, the severe acute respiratory syndrome, which is in a way occurring in most of the pandemic. If you remember this swine flu, H1N1, that time also it was there. Or before that, bird flu, mad cow disease. If you remember, in last 20 years, there were few pandemics, but this one was really a huge pandemic. So it was really threatening the whole humanity, or we were really frightened. The swine flu and everything were not so hugely affecting. So it was there, but it just disappeared after. It is still there, but now we don't take into account. So one thing, that upper respiratory tract is prone to get disturbed easily if any disease occurs. And that's why in most of the pandemic, the respiratory tract syndromes are there. Until now, whatever pandemic has happened, you see the respiratory tract symptoms. That's why SARS and ARDS, these two words comes. So SARS is severe acute respiratory syndrome and ARDS is acute respiratory distress syndrome. Now, what is the difference between them? Things are similar, just few things are different. Like in SARS, you need to have an infection, a viral infection or a bacterial infection, mostly viral. So you need an invader. Whereas in ARDS, you don't need an invader. If you have any big respiratory disease like tuberculosis or pneumonitis, etc., and later on, you could develop ARDS without invasion. But in SARS, an invasion is needed. So it is a virus transmitted disease in SARS. It could be through droplet, it could be through airborne. That means if somebody sneezes, somebody coughs, somebody talks, from there it can transmit to you. Whereas in ARDS, you are critically ill and then you develop that. There is a less space in lungs, there is a damage to the air sac of the lungs, which deprive the oxygenation, which deprive ultimately oxygen supply to organs. So it is a ARDS. Whereas SARS is an acute fatal severe condition generated by an invader. So when invasion comes there, as it is not previously experienced, so there is no immediate treatment exist in Mary's SARS situation. You have to do R&D, you have to calculate, you have to think and have a preventive measures initially. And then afterwards, for example, COVID, do we say that there is one single medicine which is curing COVID? No, not yet. It's been 2 years. What we have is a prevention. We have vaccine. Why? Because we will not get COVID. If at all we get COVID, we will be not severe. If at all we will be severe, we will not die. This is the role of vaccine. So it's not that if you take vaccine, you will not get COVID. It's not like that. So what is there is supporting you not to be severe, not to be fatal, not to be dying. Because it's a new thing. That's why I told no treatment, immediate treatment exists. Whereas in ARDS, there are a lot of support and treatment exists. So that is the difference. Ultimately, when you get a SARS, As a post effect, you may have ARDS. So after all, you will transfer to there. Now, why this happened? This happened because of your immune response, your immunity response. So what is this immunity and how it works? A brief review we take of the immunity. So what is immunity? In fact, immunity is a state of resistance of an organism to invading biotic or abiotic pathogen and their harmful effects that prevents the development of infection and maintain the integrity of organism. So what immunity does? Immunity is the first level resistance. For example, if two countries start to have a war, in ancient times, many places you have historic forts. If you see the fort structure, there are certain defense mechanism in the fort. For example, some forts exist surrounded by water, so the invader should not come directly. It has to face the difficulty to cross through water. Then you have big wall, protective wall. Then you have some towers. So there are different level defenses. So immunity is such kind of resistance, such kind of barriers in your body to either counteract with somebody which is invading or to stop, prevent somebody invades or to neutralize, fight outside and neutralize or fight at the first level and neutralize. So this is the job of your immunity. So in a way, immunity try to resist, try to create barriers, try to neutralize, and also try to prevent from harmful effect. Now, once the invasion is happened, once it cross your immunity barriers, then the harmful effect cannot be prevented. Then there is a damage, which you have to recover in post-care. So, immunity at different level, it works in a different levels. So there are some specific components of immunity and there are some non-specific components. So non-specific components, they act most of the times as a barriers or eliminators of different pathogens or different antigens. Whereas the specific components, they in a way help immunity to adapt to each new invader or each new disease they expose to. And they develop a pathogen specific immunity. That's what we do now with vaccine. We see if there are antibodies, if there are COVID antibodies, how many percent, etc. So it is a pathogen specific immunity, which is in a way adaptive way. So non-specific is the innate immunity, the immunity you have on your own with certain barriers, which I will show you in the next picture. Whereas adaptive immunity, you can have two ways. One is a natural way. Natural means you get some sort of adaptive immunity through your birth process, maternal, passive. You get some strength by birth. You have certain immunities, like for example, being Indian, staying in a warm climate, born in a warm climate, I have certain immune responses developed. But when I migrate to cold country, that responses are nullified. So I am more prone to get sick in cold country than in my country. Because it's unnatural for me. Natural is to stay in India. Unnatural is to be in Germany in cold weather. So in this way, some maternal strength you get, or passive natural immunity, which is adapted because you are in a country specific, temperature specific, season specific way. And there is active but natural adaptability, means because you are exposed to certain infection, your body works it on and nullifies that. So body remember, okay, I had this infection. So next time when you get the same infection, your body immune response is there prepared because it adapted as it exposed to infection. So many times this happens, and in fact, vaccination is a kind, immunization or vaccination is a kind of active immunity, adaptation of immunity. Well, it's artificial, it's not natural, but it's still. So artificial, there are two ways again. One is immunization or vaccination, where you have, in a way, injecting that antigen-like scenario in your body. So once it goes inside, the body produces antibodies and body adapt accordingly. And second, which is passive, is you directly receiving antibodies. That is antibody transfer. So this is a kind of immunity scenario today we are exposed to. In that, what in pandemic normally is practiced is adaptive immunity and artificial way, because you need a faster track. But sometimes in that, if you are too fast, you don't really calculate the adverse effect of side effect. And then the post-immunization effect is another story, or post-vaccination effect is another story, which we are exposed to now because we have large-scale vaccination. So we have like 198 million people vaccinated. So comparatively, we have a larger cases coming post-vaccination adverse effects. So we are exposed to that type of patient every day now. But anyway, this is the way how immunity is practiced. Now, what innate immunity? Innate immunity is a kind of first line defense which exists in your body already. It is a first line mechanism. Anything invades, they are the one which will act. For example, simple example I tell you. If you are walking and something goes in your eyes, what happens? Your eyes become red and they start to water. You know why this happens? This happens because of the first line defense. This is the word you may heard, cytokine storm in COVID. This is the reaction of soluble mediators or even histamine, you may heard of this word. So these kind of secretions are there. These secretions are first line defense because it's not a biological invader. It's not really a bacteria or virus, but it is something, dust or some, some particle, which is a biological, but still invasion. Same thing when you exposed to some allergic reaction. It's the same thing. Your nose become red, eyes become red, and secretion. Now, exactly same has happened at large in COVID, inside lungs. So what has happened? The lungs become inflamed and a huge level, lot of secretions which occupy the space. There is no space for oxygen to come in. That was the initial reaction and that's why it was termed as a cytokine storm, a huge natural reaction. So innate immunity, which is a first line defense, which provide the first line defense, it's a rapid response. It's the fast response against any infection. But it is not specific because the target is not identified, so it's not specific. It just goes there. It's like if somebody is attacking, everybody runs in that direction. Nobody knows where is the attacker, but everybody goes to defend. Similar kind of thing happen in innate immunity. So there is no memory or there is no long-lasting effect. It's immediate, it's the first line, but it's not long-lasting. Okay. So there are a lot of membranes in our body. If you see, there are natural barriers like skin, our mucosal membrane, nose, mouth. They are natural barriers. Eyes, mucosal membranes. They are the one who become red. They are the one who secrete the histamine or secretions, whatever. Then on cell level, there are some cellular defense like T cells, etc. Mast cells you may heard of differently. Then these soluble mediators, anti-inflammatory markers like cytokine, which produces inflammation in the process of defense. And also their pattern recognizing molecule. This is not really important now. What is important is there is some defense mechanism, rapid defense mechanism exists in your body which try to defend but not specific defense. It's a general defense, rapid defense. So it's the first line, but it's not long lasting. It will not last long. Okay, that is innate immunity. And that, in fact, in COVID, that's what was happened, that the defense was so strong, immunity was overacting. So in the initial response, nobody was realizing what to do. Everybody was thinking that let us boost the immunity, but the immunity was already boosted, already overreacting. What was required is immunomodulation, which we understand a bit later, not in the first go. So first response was non-specific. Whereas adaptive immunity, there is a specific target. It is a specific response to specific invasion. For example, if you are exposed to smallpox or chickenpox or German measles, what we call measles. So if you exposed to that, the body creates an effector response. Body start to defend, give response. That response work on that person which got that smallpox, like in the middle image. The normal person, then you got smallpox, the effector response occurs, that neutralizes, and you become recovered, you are healthy. But this is restored in the memory of the immunity. It creates a memory response. So next time, when you expose to smallpox, there is a memory response, so you don't get really disease symptoms. Your body nullifies that. But this happened to smallpox only because it's a specific response. If you get different than smallpox, like chickenpox or measles, you will again exposed. Because the memory is just recognizing smallpox invader, not chickenpox. That is the concern also in COVID now. If different variants are there, will the vaccine work on different variants? That was also a discussion 2, 3, 4 months before. Because different variants are coming. So this is the reason why people were discussing this, because if you have a specific response, other than that something comes in, will the response work or not? The previous experiences, it's not working. Because it's for smallpox, it will not work on measles. So that's the way. This is the plus and minus of this thing, adaptive immunity. Plus is similar type of disease you may not get. But if it comes different, then you will not be saved. because it's the limitation. This happens to many viruses, but those who are self-mutating, those who change the structure, it's still difficult. So that are the limitations of adaptive immunity. So these are the main two things of immunity, what we discussed. You understand this? If you don't understand, you can stop and ask me question, huh? Because this is a more like a technical thing, but I try to explain you so that you will understand. So overall, what influences the immunity? Now we have seen what is existing in your body. So this innate immunity, many times it's a maternal support also. So you have strong barriers. Then you have adaptive immunity, where you develop the immunity later on after birth. Both the things are existing, but still there are certain things which influence the immune response. So which are they? If you see the CDC, Center for Communicating Disease Control USA, what they think? Our age, our sex, our infection history, and our genetic is the first thing which influence our immune response. For example, if you are young, if you are a child, if you are a baby, if you are a teenager, you are more safe than elderly. Why you are more safe? Because your body immunity is still in learning state. So it can adapt more faster than grown-up people. That's the reason many children were not suffered so much by COVID. Because the disease is new, but your immunity is also new. There is no imprint, there is no memory. So this is a new memory. So they are more ready to adapt. If you are fresh enough, you work more, you can adapt more. If you are already adapted, tired, your response is slow, lazy, or you are not ready. So age matters. And that's why aged people are considered high risk. In any pandemic, why it is considered high risk? Because their immunity has several memory imprints. Their immunity has adapted several times. So the response is not so fast. That's why the age matters. Sex matters because certain things female are more stronger, certain things male are stronger. So in certain diseases, female are more strongly protecting themselves, so they are less prone. In certain diseases, male are less prone. So that's why this is now we are just thinking of pandemic. So I'm not going to explain this more, which disease, okay? Then history of infection and genetic. Your genome structure also gives signal to disease specific response. So they affects also. Then second, lifestyle hygiene. This is the most important because your first barrier is skin. If skin is not ready to protect, if skin is carrying cluster of bacteria or virus, how you will protect yourself? So personal hygiene, like we know in COVID, we were advised all the time to wash hand. So this personal hygiene and the mucosal barriers both need to be protected. If not, your immunity will be affected. If protected well, your immunity will be good. Then nutrients from food. Certain vitamins could support mostly the fruit and vegetables which are having plenty of such kind of vitamins, and that's why in COVID it was the basic thing given, vitamin C. was given basic as a basic thing. So uh, fruit, vegetables, and certain vitamins could also influence your immunity. The most important thing is stress or sleeping patterns. Sleeping patterns, our mood definitely influence the immune function because they really influence on stress hormones. Stress hormones influence on the other hormones which are the base of inflammatory markers. So sleeping patterns are also important. And that's what was a very important thing which many people I advised they followed the dietary intake, the sleeping pattern, and reduced stress, and they were really benefited. Because in the first wave, in fact, and second wave also in India, first wave was like a shock. If somebody was COVID affected, even their own blood, like if I'm COVID affected, my wife, my son were running away from me. They were even not calling me, as if like from home the virus will come. So person is in isolation, and it is like completely taken away. That was the time when people should have, in fact, interacted to each other. But instead, people were left isolated, nobody calling them, nobody. So what I did in the COVID center I was working, I was tapped every patient. One line of treatment was fixed in my SOP, was taking few phone numbers of their friends. And I was telling the friend that you 3-4 people in a day, you should do one phone call to that person. And that really worked well. They were so happy when the phone call they start to receive. That was really, and I could see that with the stress, he was going down, the oxygen concentration was going down, down, down. And after they start to receive phone call, they themselves start to build up. So stress and sleeping pattern really, really matters in pandemic. And that I could tell you from my experience. So this is what, in short, the immunity and how it works. Now let's come to Ayurveda part or Ayurveda Yoga part. Whether such things were existing, were explained in Ayurveda or not. So first I just cross some of the slides and I go to the pandemic part of Ayurveda. So basically, coming back to pandemic part, because I explained you immunity. What strategies are implied now? The basic strategy is mitigation and containment. This is followed by everybody in the world. Containment, contact tracing, isolation, keeping them away 10 days, 14 days, whatever. So tracing, testing, and isolation. That was the first thing followed in COVID in the initial stage. So that containment, in that, contact tracing and isolation is the most important thing. Means identifying and keeping them separate, not to transmit to other family member or other society member. That is a basic thing required, in fact. Then what required is mitigation. So in mitigation, first part was effectively conveyed, at least, because still we have the ringtone. It's been 2 years, we are tired of listening this ringtone, that wash your hand and social distancing and all these things. You call, in every call, you have to listen that for 40 minutes, 40 seconds. And then only the call gets connected. So this was strongly conveyed that you should be having social distancing, you should have hygiene, etc. Preventive measures, as in the beginning everybody was in dark, and later also this was not really well conveyed, the preventive measures. What was conveyed, what was thought, that if we are advising social distancing, if we are advising hand washing, if we are advising sanitization, etc., that's done. But more than that, there are certain more preventive measures in terms of behavior, in terms of food, in terms of lifestyle. They were not really conveyed well. So that was a bit lacking. Therapeutic and vaccination, yes, it was therapeutic. Initially, the response was uncertain, but there were a lot of kind of medicines or injectables used, from steroid to hydrochloroquine, etc. And then it comes to vaccination. So that was done very well. So what was really not very well done was preventive measures. And also in hygiene part, there were some more things which could have been stressed. So prevention through lifestyle, stronger hygiene, different way of social distancing, and immunomodulation, this was not conveyed well, as I told you. Treatment against the invader was initially not there, but afterwards they started to do, and supporting barriers were done, and acquired immunity was done a lot, vaccination. So this was a strategy of managing pandemic by WHO. Now, how Ayurveda thinks about pandemic. So there is a word called Janapada, Dhvamsa. Janapada. Jana means huge population. Pada means clusters of population, or state or countries of population. Whole kingdom. That is called Janapada. Dhvamsa means at the same time exposed and suffering. So because in ancient times there was no like country, there were kingdoms. So like for example, in terms of India, there was Mughal kingdom, which was occupying like 7 SAARC countries, our Southeast Asian countries. One kingdom, 7 countries. So they were kingdom in ancient times. Even before there was a British rule, there was German rule, there was French rule. So you have not just your country, but other countries where you are ruling. So it's a kingdom. So when something commonly affecting a kingdom and making them suffering, that is what is called Janapada zones, which is today we term it as a pandemic. This is the exact what they explained then. So there was a question asked, if every individual is different, even 2 twins are not similar, they are born from same mother, same father, same mother's womb, same month, almost same time, few seconds different. They look like same, but still they are not same. So how could something common affect to different people? That was the question. So then they searched, because then they divided into 2 disease patterns. Individual aspect is considered as sadharana. Okay, you have a specific human, you have a specific construction of your body, your nature, your temperament, and accordingly you may get this, you may not get this. That is a general individualistic perception. But there are certain things which are common, used commonly by many different people. If they get spoiled, then pandemic are bound to happen. So for Ayurveda, that time they thought of 4 common things. One is Vayu, air. Second is Udaka, water. Third is places, country, Desha. And fourth is period, time or season. So air, which is common, but inhaled by different people. So one common thing inhaled by different people. So if the common thing is spoiled, no matter different people inhaling, they will be also affected. So transmission through air is one common cause considered by Ayurveda for pandemic, for epidemic. So they consider pollutants, different pollutants, maybe it's dust, maybe it's pollen, maybe it's carbon, maybe it's smoke, whatever. Then seasonal impact, because certain season create more humid, more dense air, and certain season do not. Then temperature variations. Varied temperature could impact the population's health. And that was the initial thinking in COVID also, which was wrong, but initial thinking that it is spreading more in cold and not in hot, which was wrong impression, but that happens because previously some pandemic were responsive to temperature variation. So temperature variation affecting air, temperaturally varied air affect human. Then contamination in air. Either that's what we call contact or airborne. So air is there, you are sneezing, you contaminate the air, the same air is inhaled by the person near you and it transmits. So air could be a reason commonly affecting whole kingdom. That was considered then. Second was water. Change taste of water, change color of water. Color change means there is something mixed inside. Change smell of water and change touch of water. That was their marker to test if water is good or not. That time, there were no microscope that time to search if there is bacteria or not, or if there is E. coli or not. So they were checking with their markers and the appearance, whether it's humid or whether it's dense, etc. appearance. And accordingly, if the water is contaminated, it could create a pandemic. That's the reason when you travel to different countries, like when you come to India, you don't drink tap water. If at all you go to other countries, normally try to drink the bottled water. When you don't know if the water is good or not. Why you think so? Because water could create some disease. In India, for example, here in first rain, hundreds of people get affected with diarrhea, with cholera-like situation, colic infections in the first rain. Why? Because the temperature, air, and the water, so the gas in the air and water, they mix up together, they produce more acidic pH that disturb the digestive system and people suffer. This happens every year. So water could produce, and more than that, also water come in contact with different animal, plant, bird, or something falls from outside external matter to inside the water. So that could change and people could suffer. Then the country or the places, or again the thing, tastes, color, smell, touch, then that time, because again they were not able to check the soil conservation. So that's why the taste part comes in there, test the soil. Okay, bitter taste or astringent taste, different taste of the soil, diagnostic part. Then smell of the earth and touch of the earth. So they were diagnostic part. But anyway, contact, again, it could be many human using the same place. It could be animal and then human comes, or human was there and then animal comes, so contact. Bird, serpents, insects, flies, mosquitoes, plant, and the wind bringing things from one place to another place. All these things were considered as a cause for pandemic. And we know that surface. We know in COVID or in coronavirus, there are certain surface which could keep the virus colony for hours. So that was also considered. And the kala season, for example, improper season. It is supposed to be sunny and it starts to suddenly rain or suddenly uh, cold. It's supposed to be cold and it starts to suddenly become hot, 40 degrees. Or it's mixed season. That season itself, as I told you, it affects the air, it changes the density of air, it affects the place, it affects the plant, it affects the vegetables. So as you, then the time of the day or daylight, less light, more light, that affects. And age, already I told you, age and age-wise development, that also affect according to Ayurveda in pandemic. So these four things need to be checked and need to be exposed to clean or protected air, clean or non-polluted, non-contact water. The place which you are using need to be cleaned or protect yourself from different contacts, and change according to season, your lifestyle. That is the way if you want to not get affected by pandemic. So this is the first idea of Ayurveda about pandemic. You understand this? Okay. Then what is the reason, they ask? And that is something which is very interesting. What Ayurveda thinks that time, that this occurs because of adharma. That is the first word. You may know this word, dharma and adharma. So the rules and regulations prescribed to keep healthy, united society, that is called dharma in Vedic philosophy or in Ayurveda. So if you break the rules and regulation to keep you healthy and united, you will be walking towards diseases, and especially the diseases of masses. Because this adharma leads you to asat karma. So you will not do good karma, you will always exposed to wrongdoings. Maybe now or maybe previously done, purvakrita. And that exposed to prajnaparada. Prajnaparada means, and that is very interesting, committed crime of intelligence. Prajna means intelligence, aparadha means crime. You are intelligent, but you do something wrong. I just give you an example, the famous example everybody knows. In all the cigarette box it's written, smoking is injurious to health. You are intelligent. Still you go, you buy and you smoke. Isn't it a crime of intelligence? You are made aware that smoking is injurious. Still you smoke. And when you get lung cancer, blame it on smoke, not on you. Cigarette create cancer. Come on. If cigarette create cancer, then keep the box in the cupboard and wait for cancer. Let's see if you get cancer. You open the box, you smoke frequently, again and again, not required. And then, so knowingly or unknowingly, though we are intelligent, we do wrongdoings. That wrongdoings create asat karma or adharma. And when many people do that, it goes to Janapadatas, it goes to pandemic. For example, simple things, I don't know in Europe because that time but in India, for example, when everybody was advised to wash hand or wear the mask, many youngsters were thinking not to wear the mask as a, young thing. When police comes, run away, hide. So this is something which is a kind of intelligence. You are just chilling out and thrilling out because it's lockdown and you just want to play with the police. And so you don't want to wear a mask. You don't want to wash hand. Which is something which is leading you. So these people they exposed to. And that is the reason in India. In India is the country where many young people died in COVID. Not that much young death in the rest of the developed world. Why? Because we missed the basic things. So this is the way it happens. So what is the treatment prescribed? Panchavidha karma. So Panchavidha karma is detox or cleansing your body. Cleansing supports the barrier, skin barrier to fight against invader freshly or with strength. The second was Rasayana. Rasayana is rejuvenating your cell to the optimal level. That is Rasayana. It's also translated as anti-aging treatment, Rasayana treatment. But this is something which really regenerating, revigorating your body. So Rasayana is required and energizing also. Swastasya urjaskaram, urja, that is energizing. Tadvishyam tad Rasayanam. So Rasayana is energizing, rebuilding, reconstructing, revigorating, and taking every cell to optimal level. So ultimately, it will enhance your defense. It will modify and modulate your defense. So Rasayana, this is one role in active stage and post-care also. Because post-care you need a reconstruction, rehabilitation. And there also Rasayana is used. So Rasayana was second treatment described by Charaka in Janapadata also. Third was control and beneficial lifestyle. Brahmacharya, you know that, I don't need to explain. Control on sensory organs, jitatmana. For example, as I told you, sleeping patterns matter in immunity. We know that the sleeping during the night, 7 to 8 hours during the night, let's say 9-10 p.m. till 5-6 a.m. refill your 5 systems, and in that 5 systems, immune system is one. But in COVID lockdown, our youngsters did exactly opposite. Because they were not going out, So they stay awake late night watching movies, televisions, WhatsApp, chatting, and eating junk food in the night, sleeping 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, waking up late. So there was no control, no jitatmana. Satvika. Satvik, Satvika means sattva dominant, sattva producing food or behavior. Sattvic and beneficial lifestyle. This is what is required as a preventive measure in any pandemic. You should follow certain beneficial lifestyle so that you will not be exposed to the pandemic. And the part of adharma is to treat, to pray God, to pray Guru, be kind, be truthful. So it's like sadvutta, mental purification. That was the treatment advised by Charaka like 2000 or 3000 years before for pandemic. And half of that we followed in 3000 years after Charaka in 2022 or 21. So this is still relevant. In fact. You understand this concept of pandemic in Ayurveda? You have any question? If you have, you ask me, or I take a very small break to just to drink something, water, for 2-3 minutes, and then we continue. If you have any question, you ask me. So I just take 2 minutes just to drink, and then we continue. So let us begin again. So what for immunity, what Ayurveda thinks? As we have seen the definition of immunity, but Ayurveda add one part, or yoga add one part more than what is the present definition. Because Vyadhi means disease and Shamatva means capability. Capability to prevent, to handle, or to counter the disease due to invaders. So it's not just against the infection, but also it enhances the body capacity to fight back. So in a way, for us, immunity is the first line's resistance to prevent the invader, to counteract, to nullify. This is first thing. But if it enters already and it start to damage your body, that also should be handled. That also should be taken care of. That is the additional part of immunity definition in Ayurveda. And they clearly mention this, that it should be acting against the strength of the disease, Vyadhi Bala Virodhi, or it should be preventing disease to occur or disease to be produced, or even pathogenesis of disease before it occurs. So it doesn't let invader go in. If invader goes in, it's try to counteract, nullify, and prevent the disease to be produced or occurred. And still, if at all the invader is gone inside and producing harmful effect, to fight back against the strength of that disease, to make body capable to fight back against the strength of that disease. That is the additional part. So these are the important aspects for us in the immunity. So we are not just restricted to defend or to counteract, but we are also expecting body to reconstruct, rebuild, to fight against the strength of the disease. And that's what was useful. That is what we call modulation. It's not just to give reaction, but it should be manipulated reaction. It should be controlled reaction. It should not be overaction. It should be controlled reaction. Wherever needed, you react. Where it is not needed, you don't react. That is the modulation. And the modulation part is expected in Ayurveda, in immunity. Not just defense, but also modulation. To react in a sensible way or in a smart way to react. So that is also done with the help of certain body vital capacities. So Ayurveda consider or term it in two different terms. One is called Bala, strength of the body, of the immune system. And second is Ojas, which is considered as a vital response. So there are different ways, again, Ayurveda describes how to influence your immunity or what influences your immunity. So again, maternal part, that is called Sahaja, strength you got by birth with your individual constitution. That is the adaptive nature, adaptive immunity, which you got by birth, but it is individualistic. So everybody has a different adaptive capacity because the constitution is different, the prakriti is different. So if I adapt to certain disease, does not mean that my son will adapt similarly to same disease. He may adapt differently, but still he will adapt. That you get by birth. Then there are certain strength or certain things you get by age or by season or vice versa. So you lose strength by age or by season. So certain season or certain period, it's considered healthy period. Like for example, it's cold, not too cold and windy. It's cold but humid. It is moisturous, not humid, moisturous, refreshing, cold. This is a good weather where the human body flourishes. If it starts to be windy, drying, chilling, cold, it's not a good weather. So you try to enhance your capacities when the season is supporting you. And you try to less torture your body when the season is already torturing your body. We do opposite. Many times we torture more body when the season is also torturing. So we don't maintain the strength. For example, in summer, especially summer because it's hot, it's dehydrating, it absorbs moisture and things from your body. So in summer, you need to rehydrate more. In summer, you need to sleep more because sleep is a good hydration. In summer, you need to do gentle exercise, not heavy exercise. We don't do that. In summer, we drink, but we drink more of heat increasing drinks many times. This from Coke to beer. It's a summer drink. In fact, it should not. It should be more of a juice, more of different milk, coconut water. But we don't do that. We increase the acidic pH, which is not really required in summer. So that's why I told you, acting properly as per the season, taking benefit of seasonal strength, and protecting and maintaining your health when season is not good for you. That's the way you can influence your immunity. Whether you are elderly or whether you are child, that's the way. And then you also have a lifestyle measure that Ayurveda described, that by, this is an example, by following certain exercise regimen, by following certain dietetic regimen, by following certain behavioral regimen, so you become smart and you enhance your body capacity as well as your immunity. So choose proper exercise, choose proper dietetics, choose proper behavior, choose proper sleeping patterns. Try not to be stressed or distract yourself from stressors. And like that, you enhance your capacity. So this is something which they advise. For example, there are some simple things, example they gave. This doesn't mean only this, there are many things. Like they advise to have ghee or milk, those who are vegetarian. Even they advise gold boiled water or asparagus juice, asparagus soup for vegan, and of course meat soups, etc. for non-vegetarian. Proper sleep of 7 to 8 hours in the night and mind care. This is the underline, bottom line that one should follow if you want to have a proper immune response. So, which I will explain a bit more in the last part, what care we should take. So this is what Ayurveda thinks about immunity. Furthermore, Ayurveda says that the ojas, vital power, which supports, stabilization, nourishes your body. So you really need to take care of that. So what more factors will influence your vitality or your immunity? Place, country you are living now, and your country of origin. That really affects. As I explained you before, I am born and brought up in India. If I migrate to Europe or to USA, naturally I'm losing some of my strength. My body has to adapt to new weather, new cold, new things. So I am prone to get flu. I am prone to get sinusitis. I am prone to get cholesterol. I am prone to get diabetes or obesity. This is a study. This is not me, I am telling you. There are several studies that Asians from tropical country who migrated to cold country, they are prone to. So identify, because that will influence your immunity. It's not just about solution. It's about to identify your strength and your lacuna. Then, as I told you, time element in relation with age, season, or day, night. And most important, variable time. This is a very specific thing. Some people, they don't like summer. Some people, they don't like winter. Summer is not bearable for them, and winter is bearable for them. So these people need to enhance their capacity in winter. Some people who hate winter, they should not, again as I told, they should not really try to do something new in winter. They like the warm thing, they should enhance capacity in warm time. So bearable time, take the benefit because it will influence your immunity. Also, Ayurveda consider that hereditary or genetic influence, bija dosha. Bija is seed. Seed is human seed. Human seed means semen and ovum, which carries the genome, which builds your genome structure. That also influence, that gives you genetic predisposition, how you will be developed and how you will be interacting further. So that also matters. And then as I told you, excellence of body tissues, sarata. You should expose to rasayan or whatever, good food, good exercise, etc. So you will be having optimal or excellent tissues and barriers which will behave smartly. So excellence of tissues also influence your vitality. Proportionate measure and tone of the body. This is really important. This is not paid attention to. This has been considered in aging. For example, those who has long nose lives bit longer than short nose. Something like that is in aging. It is considered. Same thing I would consider also for vitality and immune response. Your body proportionate measures could also reflect how strong immunologically you will respond. Or maybe you respond less. Like the age, life expectancy, also this matters there for Ayurveda. Habits, this is most important also. Because sometimes if it is habitual, it will harm you less in that moment, but probably in the longer run, it could be disaster. Or some habits which will really help you not to get ill. Like for example, if you are habitual to certain toxic material, for example, because of work, because of something, in certain kind of epidemic, you will be protected. I tell you one example. This is example. I'm not recommending that, but I'm telling you example. In COVID, in Montpellier, the first big French hospital who work on COVID, the doctor, he's friend to me, he come up with some data of more than 400 people, and he said that it looks like smoking initially prevents entry of COVID. It's a bad habit. I'm telling you this. I have my experience in India. Those who were chewing tobacco, even though passed through the containment zone, they were not exposed to COVID in first wave. So it's a habit. It's a bad habit. But it itself has certain strength. But it doesn't mean that I recommend tobacco chewing because, okay, you might be prevented by COVID or not, or I doubt or smoking. But for sure, you will get cancer. So, so there is no point to recommend this. But this is an observation. So sometimes some habits, though they are bad, helps you temporarily. So this is the influence on immunity because we are science. So we tells you the truth, what little benefit you have and what big disease you may expose to if you smoke. So we tell you the benefit and also drawback. So that's why certain habits influence your vitality or immunity. Now this is an example of bad habit. I have also examples of good habit, like habit of waking up early or habit of sleeping early. There are certain good habits also, doing or sleeping in a particular way or following a particular exercise regimen habit. So there are certain things or habit of like we do now, hygiene. Because you will be surprised, in Ayurvedic Dinacharya as well as in traditionally India, for example, if I go to my home in my village, the bathroom is outside near the door. So everybody enters in the home. He cannot enter without washing his hand and putting some water on his feet. This is a rule. Whether you are from family or you are a guest. If you go 10 times out of your house, 10 times before entering, you have to wash your hand and you have to wash your feet. And now we have to learn in COVID, wash your hand. And this is our tradition. It is in our tradition, it is in my village, in my home, it is in Ayurveda Dinacharya. Hygienic scenario, each time you come from outside to inside your home to protect your family. This is a habit. This was a habit until I was the age of 18. Now I am in city. I have a big apartment and the entrance is a big couch, welcome, but there's no washing. Washing is in the middle of the apartment. So I come with coronavirus in my hand. Where I go, I cross all my apartment, go to the bathroom. So already some coronavirus is spread in my hall, apartment. So this is the change happened in my life. So I forgot my habit of washing hand before entering in my home. And so we exposed it. So this is something. So what happens? There are certain things in lifestyle, like late night awakening, exhaustive exercise. Ideally, one should do exercise half of their capacity, half. But we do workout, double the capacity. So we lose everything. So we are exposed to. So non-exhaustive exercise, because exercise, what is asana? Comfortable positions. The definition of asana. Sukha is the word there. That you should have a position which you enjoy. And in exhaustive exercise, you don't really enjoy. Okay, you enjoy mentally. I'm doing workout. But your muscles, they don't enjoy. They are in pain, but still you do workout. So non-exhaustive. Sukha asana sthiti. Comfortable exercise. Half of your capacity one must do. But if you do exhaustive exercise, you will lose your oja. You will have low vitality immunity. Exposed to industrial light. Watching television in dark. Mobile. Especially in the night. WhatsApp, Instagram, whatever. Industrial light affects your sleeping pattern, affects your brain waves, affects your sensory organs. So affects your barriers. Then fasting, complete fasting, less nutritional food or less quantity food. Your hunger of this much and you're eating this much. Malnourishment. Non-nutritive food. It's tasty, but it's not nutritive. This could also affect. One day you do, it's okay. Once in a week, 2 weeks you do, it's okay. But every day you do the same, then it's a problem. And psychological factor, fear, grief, or sorrow. If you are sad, if you are fearful, if you are stressed, if you are thinking too much or worrying too much, that definitely affects your vitality, immunity, Ayurveda says. And the last thing, sleep, which I already explained, so I'm not going to explain again. And Agni, the digestive capacity, the digestive fire. If your digestive capacity is not good, you are giving a platform. You are weakening your mucosal membrane, you are weakening your skin barriers, and you are providing a platform. So understand the digestive capacity and eat as per the capacity, how frequently you need to eat or how much quantity you need to eat as per the digestive capacity. So that is one important part. Well, I just show you one picture quickly how it transmits to allergy. For example, if you have dust, you have pollen, or if you have animal thing, that goes to human barrier, nose, eyes, or mouth. So the antibodies, the mast cells, the histamine start to secrete more. And when they secrete, they have a protection mechanism, inflammation and secretions. Now this is a body defense mechanism. But what we do normally, once we start to sneeze, we have running nose, we have red eyes, we take antihistaminic. So our defense mechanism try to defend, and instead of working on the allergen, you suppress the defense mechanism by antihistamine, by anti-allergic. So your immunity is confused. What you need to do is to protect and support the external layer. Instead, you suppress the defense mechanism. You suppress the defense reaction because you are suffering, because there is running nose. So yes, you need to get rid of running nose, but you need to understand that this running nose is because of the allergen. So how I could protect my inner mucosal membrane next time not to expose to allergen. That is the key thing. That's what I told you. You need to learn preventive measure. You need to learn immunomodulation, not just defense and suppression. So that is what we will see. So what could happen? Immune response. If nose, there will be nose, swelling in nasal mucosa, runny nose, or sneezing. This is a part of your immunity response. Sinus, you may feel like allergic sinusitis. Eyes, many times it's red, itching, or the conjunctiva was inflamed, the red eyes. Airways, you feel like coughing, sneezing, constriction there, something is in the chest, blocked, wheezing, breathlessness, or sometimes attacks of asthma like that, or in the throat area, there is inflammation. Skin, you may get rash like eczema, or you may get hives. Gastrointestinal, you may get abdominal pain, bloating, vomiting, or diarrhea. And pituitary or hypothalamic, you may get fever. So if you see this, many of that you are exposed to. When you are exposed to COVID, you see these symptoms. Or any invader, This is the immune reaction symptoms, your immunity. When your immunity react too much, you will have more severe symptoms of this. So this you have to understand. Okay. So now, okay, all these things happen. What to do? How to work on? So first we need to understand how it transmits. We just know the airborne thing. But for Ayurveda, it's not just airborne. Social distancing was described by Sushruta. They says prasangat gatra samsparsha, means when there is a, a common function, many times you sit nearer to each other, you touch your body part to other person's body part, gatra samsparsha, you are exposed to nishwasa, their expiration, the air coming out from their nose, or some sparkles coming from their mouth when they are talking, or you touch the surface of common thing, or you share the chair, you share the table and chair around, or many times you share the bed, you may share the cloth, you may share the ornaments, you may share the cosmetics. These all are reason of transmission. So it's not just air. Deodorant. In a family, two people use the same deodorant. You are sharing. You are sitting together. If you are in an office, you are boss and employee, have a board meeting, you are sitting near to each other. So this good. So concept of social distancing, concept of not touching common surfaces, concept of airborne, concept of using things commonly are already described, and they are measures of transmission, Ayurveda says. And not one, all the three texts they describe, Shushura, Charaka and Ashtanga. Transmission could be by touch, contact, togetherness, etc. And also breathing things. And in Ashtanga, it not just describes human to human, but also it describes animal and human, plant and human. Charaka also describes plant and human. Touch or smell of plant, touch and smell of animal could be a reason of transmission. So it's not just about human. They describe about the universe around you, and how you should take care of that. So, for example, the reason for rhinitis, exposure to dust, mist, frost, pollen, described in Ayurveda. Cold water, seasonal variation, and emotions. Emotions could lead to upper respiratory distress. Less sleep could lead to upper respiratory distress. This is described. So these are reasons and modes of transmission. That's why the sharing when you are in a public meeting is restricted by Ayurveda. Sharing of food, sharing of plates, sharing of place, sharing of different flowers, ornaments, etc. You should be attentive, you should be maintaining distance, and you should not be reusing. That is the idea, because it could lead not just the pandemic, but it could lead some other diseases also, including skin diseases. So now, what basic care one should think of while you are exposed to pandemic. So I'm just taking an example of food, what we did and what helped really out. So first thing, you should move to very basic food or liquid dominant diet. Like we were advising, especially those who are exposed to some symptoms like fever or like coughing or like, running nose, loss of smell, taste, etc. We were immediately shifting them first to liquid dominant diet. So liquid dominant diet like uh, dals, what we do, lentil soups or pulses soup, mung bean, or that pois lentil in France, for example, the chocolate color lentil or green lentil in France, or mung beans, cereals, soups, or cereal cooked and liquid soupy form, barley and rice, or we have another cereal called sorghum, but you don't have that, or vegetable which are cooked like aubergine, gourd, zucchini, drumstick. Many times we advised all these six together, like mung, barley, and some vegetables. Cooked more of a soupy form because it's a meal. So they used to drink almost a liter of soup, big bowls too, as a meal. Why? Because liquid diet, liquid diet support autophagy and create an extra barrier, extra layer outside the cell. So the virus, which is in search of spike protein, which is in search of invading the protein or the cell, has to face another barrier. And that's why the people who are having fever, cough, cold, headache in the beginning, we exposed them to 1.5 day to 3 days of liquid diet and they were completely normal. No more symptoms. Finish. Just by liquid diet. And in that, we were advising to use some spices like garlic, ginger, coriander, dry radish, also turmeric, pepper, sometimes. The bold thing, what I wrote, is more useful and the optional things can be also added. Then after liquid, when they were switching to solid diet, the advice was don't eat anything solid unless the previous meal is digested. So less than 4 hours, you should not be snacking out. So what we designed them is alternate, like solid food, liquid food. So for example, they are drinking something in the morning, around noon or 11, they were having their lunch. Afternoon 2, 3 p.m., they were having some fruit juice or something, some liquid. And around 6, 6:30, they were having their dinner. And they were sleeping 9:30, 10 and waking up at 5:36. So that was a regimen which helped them. And as I told you, if there is a strong fever, then the liquid diet could go from 1.5 day to 3 days, 4 days. That was the advice. Now we also advise them some specific drinks, which I told you, morning or afternoon, or even sometimes dessert. Fresh ginger juice with honey. So you have fresh ginger juice, you add some little bit of water, you add honey, mix it and drink it. A cup of that. Tastes nice, good sweety taste, sweety spicy taste, and useful. Similarly, similar thing can be done with mint and basil or separately, mint and honey, basil and honey. So you take fresh, you get this, now you will get fresh basil and fresh mint, etc. because it's April, so your springtime is coming. So you can have the juice and honey. You see, it tastes very nice. And it's a good drink. Then fruits, we advise certain fruit juices, red orange juice, carrot juice, but carrot was not really just uncooked, it was steamed. A little heated or little boiled water carrot. So carrot juice, even onion juice, advice. And sometimes red orange juice or carrot juice with few drops of lemon or sometimes few drops of garlic. This is something different. It's a new recipe. It's really tasty and it's very good for health. That was our advice. Or we advise them some teas, basil and pepper tea with honey, or basil juice with sugar and pepper, or those who can drink animal milk. There was cow milk or goat milk, that's the golden milk, you know. Cow milk or goat milk with turmeric, curcuma, cinnamon, and dry ginger, cardamom, one of these. And one, especially those who were in the COVID centers or hospital, because their variation is not possible, so we made one magic tea. It was dry ginger, coriander, cinnamon, celery or thyme in your country. In my country, it's called ajwain, clove, and basil. These six were together. They were boiled in water like a decoction, like a hot infusion, and they were given 2, 3 times, 4 times a day. Then people used to ask, oh, but where is vitamin C? Where is this? So we were telling them, red orange is vitamin, amla, Indian gooseberry, that is vitamin. So you take it. We were just, this is for them. And also those sometimes as a advice, we were advising sunlight if possible. Now, when I say this golden milk, it is related to animal milk. If you want to use vegetable milk, then you have to also think of the qualities. So golden milk like recipe, if you want to do, I recommend them to do it with rice milk or coconut milk. Almond or soya is bit heavier to digest. Then you need to add more amount of spices if you want to do the same. So you have to modify. It cannot be copy paste. You can use soya milk, you can use almond milk, but then you have to have more amount of ginger, or you can add pepper. A bit stronger spices, digestive spices is needed. Otherwise, it will not work. Because the idea is to have lighter form of nutritive food. If you are not making it lighter form, though it is nutritive, it will not help. So make sure you can use that, but you have to give extra support to digest. That's the thing. So this is the basic exposure of food and then solid food. And these are the basic drinks which we were advising. Then we were also advising some decoctions as a tea, because you know in India people love more tea than juices. And also when you are having a lot of cough or sore throat and heavy sinus or loss of smell, etc., sometimes the hot drinks are more useful than fresh drinks. So we were advising them to do decoction. How to do decoction is take the ingredient, boil that with 4 cups of water, reduce it to half, so make it 2 cups, add honey and drink twice. 1 cup each, or drink 4 times half cup each. So we were using some spice drinks like ginger, pepper, long pepper, which is available people in India, but in Europe many times it's not available. So thyme and licorice, lakritz, or this Zitrut, I think, in German. So licorice. The second was again ginger, pepper, licorice, cinnamon, cardamom, or cinnamon, coriander, ginger, cardamom, cumin. So these kind of things we were advising as a tea, herbal tea or green tea type drinks. Along with that, the protection and the prevention, both. So there were some external advices. See, I told you, the barriers need to be protected. Now, simple things. Your nasal mucosa inside, this is nasal mucosa, the invader comes, it touches, the defense start to react, rapid response, it inflame bottle. Imagine this nasal mucosa has some layer on top. So the invader comes and touch to the layer and not the nasal mucosa. So your defense rapid reaction will not be there. So inflammation will not be there, or it will not be that strong. So that is the prevention measure. So, in all these 10,000, more than 10,000 people are exposed to every day, 4 times in a day, I was applying some ghee or oil in the nose. My mask has a spray of oil. 4 times, 5 times I was gargling, oil pulling, putting the mask and then exposing. Because you have barrier, you are putting oily barrier on top. And the viscosity of oil is not letting the mu micron COVID inside, which could even enter through the mask. But with the oil, no. Because oil has more mu micron than COVID as a viscosity. So COVID cannot go in. So this is very simple thing. Just applying oil is not a big thing. Just applying ghee is not a big thing. You could have done 10 times in a day. So gargling, throat protection. We were advising at least 3 times a day or 5 times a day for active people or people in the family of exposed. Those who has COVID and the family members exposing or will be exposed, we were advising them this as a protective measure as well. Actually, symptomatic people, we were changing something. We were adding some curcuma in the boiled water, salt, and then gargle. Or some clove oil drop, cinnamon oil drop in hot water, salt, boil, and gargling, oil pulling. If you have lost smell, in that case, strong smell were useful. So we were, and I'm telling you because I lost also twice my smell because I was exposed so much times. Just here in India, it's very easy. I was having camphor. I was just inhaling camphor 5, 6, 7 times a day, strong. And in 1.5 days to 3 days, both the time my smell came back. So, but because this irritates the nerve and inflame the nerve. So some spices which has strong smell but soothing, like clove, like cinnamon, like camphor, even mint, that if you inhale, that inflammation start to reduce of the nerve, and slowly in few days you get back your smell. So this we were using in the nasal oil in active patient or even not active patient as a prevention. So this is something which is advised externally twice, thrice. Then also we were advising, this is more for the people who suffers, is externally oil massage, chest oil, chest to the chest with mostly salt in that oil, rubbing and then taking hot shower, etc. Or application of dry ginger. I have read one question, but I'll reply in the end of that. Chest application of dry ginger powder. This really helps when many people who were having dropping their oxygen. We had like they were, I had quite a few, like more than 150 patients whose lungs were affected more than 75%. I have at least 7 people whose 100% lung were affected. HRCT score was 25 by 25. And in these people, I was with the oxygen, I was putting camphor in the hole in the oxygen here. So they inhale oxygen and little bit of camphor. I was applying hot chest, the dry ginger with water. That was because, gingiva opincenaris, if you go to botany and if you read, it is a bronchodilator, it is a vasodilator. So the dilatation was in a need to infuse more oxygen. This is not a cure, but this was a management. So similarly, post-COVID now, those, especially elderly, who has this ARDS or COPD, congestive obstructive pulmonary scenario, who I have at least, I'm telling you, even more than 50 people who, old woman or man, who are continuously coughing for last 1 year after COVID. 100 to 150 times episodes of cough in a day. They try to speak a little bit and they cough. And no, it's no mucus, dry cough, because the space is less inside. So in such people, elderly people suffering, we advise them to apply oil externally with salt twice a day. Dry ginger, we advise them to gargle, inhale, and the last gargle I advise to swallow inside the body. The last gargle, don't spit out, swallow inside. And we advise them, of course, it is Indian, they tolerate animal milk. So long pepper, boiled milk. And that really helped people. Those who were coughing 150, 200 times a day, now it's 10 or 15 or 20 times a day within a prescribed period of 1.5 months to 2 months. So this external therapy itself, it is slow building, but they help. And that's why we advise a lot of external therapies also. Let me go quickly further. Some of that I already advised, which was sleep, go to bed early, wake up early, 7 to 8 hours sleep, and practice gentle breathing exercise of pranayama, especially those who are elderly and who has post-COVID effect. Because in India, we have few people died due to they were advised to do pranayama when they didn't have that much space in lungs. So it was blamed on pranayama, and I counteract, and I had a large, big fight with them. I said it's not the pranayama, it's the person who advised. Don't blame the science. It was the mistake of the person. When there is a no Sukhasthiti for prana to go in and go out, how you advise a prana exercise? One should not have advised. That's wrong. So that's what I'm telling you. Gentle breathing exercise. Maybe Anuloma, Viloma, something which, and slowly you build up. You can go to Kapalbhati, etc. Slowly you build up. Don't just jump in because it's good for prana. It is good for prana, but the body scenario is not fit for prana exercise. That's what is a yama niyama. Why you study the niyama niyama? You have to have a controlled measures, not a fascination. And that's why I'm telling you, because I have to fight this in, and I was also went in the court, not me, but as a what you can say, as an expert. The court invite me. What is your opinion? So that, and then slowly built up the pranayama. So similarly, exercise practices, because in pandemic, as you know, most of these viruses use the protein. They break the protein. So people has a less efficiency and capacity of muscular structure. One of the biggest post-COVID effect people feel is tiredness, fatigue, feeling worsening, even if they do 25% of what they used to do before. This is a common post-COVID effect worldwide, because your protein scenario, your muscular scenario don't look good, but is not able to bear half of what you used to do before. So in that scenario, how could you force them to do the same exercise? You cannot. It's like a baby, you have to teach them again, build slowly again. I'm telling you, we have so many people with so many different things post-COVID. People from hair loss, many young people having super hair loss. They never used to. Many people, I had people whose ultrasound done just before COVID, no any effect, and post-COVID, multiple urinary calculi, stones. I have plenty of people who has thickened blood vessels, and that creating a lot of, like suddenly leg cramps and you have thrombus inside. Vision loss, you have thrombus inside. So many things. So this are already known, cardiac effect, etc. I have women who has varied menstrual cycle. Before it was something, now it is something. So many things, not just chest or not just heart. So can you imagine in elderly people, already they are lack of calcium, already they are losing teeth, already they are losing hair. What this food will make them? And if you keep on taking calcium, maybe you'll have more calculi in your stone, more stones in your kidney. So that's why realize the system affected. Muscular system is one of the strongly affected systems. So exposing exercise will be gentle. Even gardening, bicycle, little dancing, gentle yoga, and then you build. Then you bring them back in 6 months to their normal scenario. No problem. But don't just go. And the most important thing is keep busy. This was for lockdown, we advising people that lie down on back and etc. So that you don't need to really pay attention to. Method of distraction is important, because COVID impair your brain and your mind, your cognitive function, your coordination. And so the memories of COVID and dysfunction of sensory organ coordination makes you more stressed and you are more disorganized. You are more disoriented. So distraction from that feeling is important. Distraction from stressors is important. And distraction can be done with the things you like dance, singing, even, something which you like, you do, instead of doing what you are doing. Distraction. And we used to give also some special treatment, which is even described in many books of Rasayana. So we used to give some powders to chew or decoction with honey. There are few things which we use as a fumigation of cigarette also, like smoke inhalation, but inhalation by nose, not by mouth. In scenario like loss of smell, sinus, blocked nose, breathing difficulties, we are giving inhalation of celery or thyme or mint. And in some scenario, even cigarette, tobacco with few drops of mint, but inhaled by nose as a treatment. So this is something which we use. More than that, there are certain food elements which are useful in elderly. That's the last thing I'm telling you. Because you have to understand why elderly are risk, because their memory of immunity has a lot of imprints, so they cannot produce new. Their body responses are slow or sluggish. And the certain things like thickening of blood, etc., can affect them faster than others. So that's the reason elderly are high risk. So what if we could help them to clean some of the memory imprints of immunity? What if we help them to rebuild and have bit faster response? And what if we maintain the blood density or the channels open? That will definitely bring them out of risk. So what are the things? First thing, rebuild, reconstruction, because that is the most required in elderly people, because in elderly, you are losing more and you are gaining less. You are in a degenerative phase. So regeneration, whatever may more, is really helpful. So in that, there are certain food elements which could help in regeneration, and they are considered as a rasayana, rejuvenating. So again, those who can take animal products, for them, or vegetarian or non-vegetarian, milk, especially cow goat milk, ghee, whey, the liquid from full fat yogurt, whey, that's from where the whey protein is derived. So you have full fat integral yogurt, on top there is water, that water, or even buttermilk, meat soups or broths, animal meat and meat soups or broths. These are, I'm talking about rejuvenation of everybody. I'm not talking about vegetarian, non-vegetarian. I'm just telling you the useful things for all. So these are some of the animal products, honey even, they are useful for rejuvenation. For example, ghee, it helps in multiple systems. It supports protein, cysteine, it supports muscles, it supports nails, it supports hairs, it supports brain, it supports mind, it acts as a fuel for digestive system, so multiple systems. Milk is a basic rejuvenator, so as meat soup. Meat soup and milk are similar qualities, broths. So this is one thing. Then in cereals, wheat, red rice, they are the two important cereals for rebuilding, rejuvenating. Barley also, but barley is a bit drying, but wheat and red rice is better. In lentils, as you know, we always recommend mung beans or green lentils. So that is good. In vegetables, there are certain vegetables which are useful as a rejuvenator. One of that is drumstick or moringa, then spinach, but spinach need to be cooked well. Otherwise, it is for elderly, it could tend towards the constipative scenario. So that's why that need to be taken care of uh, in case of spinach. Then sweet gourds or sweet pumpkins like ash gourd or sweet gourd or that courgette in French, courgette. So these zucchini, okay, these kind of vegetables means sweet fruit vegetables. In short, sweet fruit vegetables. They are useful in rejuvenating. Then different kind of eggs, they are useful. In fruits, there are various fruits which are fantastic. Few of them I tell you. One is pomegranate, which is one of the wonderful fruit. Okay. Second, as we use amla a lot, you don't get that, but in India, amla is like one of the wonderful fruit. Emberica officinalis or Indian gooseberry. Then mango and grapes, especially black raisins, mango, pomegranate, amla. They are really fantastic good fruit. Then banana, which is matured like black on the top. It's a soft banana. That is also a good fruit to rejuvenate. Then I forgot actually asparagus, celery, and yam, sweet yam, the tuber. Okay, Ipomia digitata or Puraria tuberosa, the Latin name. Sweet yam, the tubers. This is also a good food in vegetables which can support you. In spices, as I told you, long pepper is good. Garlic is one of the fantastic rejuvenating spice, but it should not be used raw. It has to be used in oil or in ghee fried scenario, not raw. That is one of the fantastic spice you can use as a rejuvenator. Okay, and some common things which are not really food. It's not really medicine also, but they are something in between. Like I told you, asparagus. Similarly, licorice, which is one of the very good rejuvenator for voice, for color complexion, for eyes, for hairs. It's fantastic. So licorice, chewing, licorice raw stick. I'm not talking about extract that licorice, the pill. That's not good. Huh? The stick raw or infusion decoctions of licorice. It's good for hair. It's good for color complexion. It's good for wrinkles. It's good for heat inside. It's fantastic licorice. So as asparagus, then aloe vera, that is also good rejuvenator. So these kind of things, if you use in food, that supports their gaining, that supports their capacity, so that the efficiency is more, the response will be more faster. Okay. Along with that, if you introduce at least in elderly, especially in pandemic situation or post-pandemic effect, one meal is a good meal, one meal is a lighter meal, and one meal is a liquid meal. This is the 3 meal scenario. If you expose to them, it will help elderly more. So lunch should be substantial, good, solid, fantastic. Lighter meal is a breakfast and liquid meal is a dinner. That could be a good scenario for elderly people uh, to build their immune response. Okay. Then just last 3 points. How to thin their blood or how to maintain their circulation. So again, there are some spices which if you incorporate in their decoction, in their food, they are fantastic. Clove is one of the spice which promotes circulation. Clove. Second, coriander. It is one of the spice which could promote circulation. Okay. Cumin, spice cumin. Cumin is also one of the supportive spice which promote circulation. And of course, garlic, which is kind of blood thinner. So the elderly people, if they could drink, let's say, infusion or decoction of clove, coriander, and cumin, and if they use garlic in the food, cooked garlic, fried garlic, that could be a good scenario for them to protect or to reduce the thickening of blood, which is a common consequence of COVID, post-COVID, or pandemic. Second thing is to, and that is useful not just for elderly, but also for anybody who want to improve the immune response. There are few spice and herbs which are considered as immunomodulators. And if you expose to these in decoction form or in just leaves form, vegetable form, whatever form, you will be really promoting your immunity. One of the best immunomodulator is basil. Second best immunomodulator is licorice. Third best immunomodulator is ginger. There are 6, but I'm telling you 2 you don't have, like terminalia, no. Tinospora cordifolia or Tinospora sinensis you don't have. Amla also you don't have that much. There are 2 more. But these 3 you definitely have. You have licorice, you have basil, and you have ginger. Okay. With that, cinnamon is another, could be immunomodulator. If your chest or your nerve affected, loss of smell test, then black pepper is also a stimulant, stimulant and reducing inflammation internally, not swelling up. And curcuma, as you know, everybody knows curcuma is one. So basically, basil, ginger, and the licorice, along with black pepper or cinnamon, you can make a tea infusion, you can drink, or you can just make a powder, you can chew, or you can eat the leaves, fresh leaves, and chew the licorice tea stick as you want. These are immunomodulators. They will be useful for elderly, also useful for children. Okay. And the last thing, in all these, what is required is a kind of assurance and stability. So assurance comes with the closed ones, means interacting and assuring them by their closed ones, friends, relatives, grandson, grandfather, whoever, grandfather, grandson relation, granddaughter, grandson relation, grandparents and grandchildren, whatever. But assurance comes, one, from interaction, and assurance comes, second, from a particular behavior pattern, like moving, not sitting at home, but moving in the places they like or pleasant places. It's not for exercise, it's just for refreshing. Having good sleep, and to support sleep, maybe applying some coconut oil to the palm of the feet or to the head, or putting few drops of ghee in the nose or coconut oil in the nose, which will increase the sleep hours. And ghee drops will coordinate, ghee drop will support also brain. So such kind of things, by behavior and by supporting sleep, the assurance comes, and the assurance brings stability. I think I have already taken 15 minutes more. So thank you very much for patience listening. If you have any question, you can ask me. For the headache question, already I have. Just let me read out once more the question. What helps if the headache remains weeks or months after the infection? There are simple three things which you could do and probably it will help. One is, as I told you, try to switch over 3 meals as I suggested for a week or 10 days. During that week or 10 days, have just head massage of oil, empty stomach in the morning, or at least this part, and the neck part, morning, evening, followed by heating and few drops of ghee. Just do that for twice a day and 10 days of the lighter food format, and let's see if it helps. It will help, definitely. You will be in better scenario than 10 days before. Okay? Anything, any other question? If you have, you ask me. I'm snoring during night. This is not so simple, but still you can try. Because as I told you, snoring again, it is the same thing. There is a less space, and there is a secretion coming in the tract when you are sleeping. So there are two things at your level. No, three things at your level you can try and see if it reduces. One thing is the dinner should be liquid only, means soup, either vegetable soup or dal soup, lentil soup or cereal soup or meat soup if you are non-vegetarian. It should have spices like dry ginger or pepper or dry ginger, pepper, cinnamon, garlic, something like that. This soup has to be consumed 3.5 hours before sleeping time. Okay. Fourth thing, before sleeping, again, you can have the spice tea I advised for elderly like clove and ginger and this. This immunity, apply some oil to the chest morning, evening and dry ginger before sleep. Try this if this helps. The idea of applying oil and salt in the morning and evening is to dilate and to produce more space. Why you have to take a liquid? Your liquid digests fast and it crosses the intestinal limit and goes to colon before you sleep. So there is no way secretion will come up again. And the ginger application before sleep is to dilate your channels so that you will snore less. So try this and see. Okay. So I think thank you very much and hope to see you soon. Dankeschön. Thank you.